I am Dr. Manoj Suryavanshi, Assistant Professor, AISSMS College of Hotel Management and Catering Technology. Today we are beginning with the chapter on levels of biological diversity, genetic species and ecosystem diversity. The learning outcome of this content is to understand the concept of biodiversity and to learn about the units of biodiversity. First of all, we'll see that what exactly mean by biodiversity. Biodiversity, short for biological diversity, refers to the variety and variability of life on Earth. It encompasses the different kinds of living organisms, the genetic differences among them, and the ecosystems they form. Biodiversity is typically explored at three levels. Now let's discuss the levels of biodiversity: genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecosystem diversity. Now let's discuss what exactly mean by genetic diversity. Genes are the basic units of hereditary information transmitted from one generation to other. The genes found in organisms can form enormous number of combinations, each of which gives rise to some variability. When the genes within the same species show different versions due to new combinations, it is called genetic variability. For example, all rice varieties belong to the species Oryza sativa, but there are different varieties which differ in their shape, size, and aroma due to variations at the genetic levels. Now let's move on to the second level of biodiversity, species diversity. This is the variability found within the population of a species. The richness of species in an ecosystem is called species diversity. The total number of living species is in the range of 10 to 50 million, but till now only about 1.5 million species have been actually described and given scientific names. Now let's go on to the third level of biodiversity, that is ecosystem diversity. An ecosystem develops its own characteristics community of living organisms depending upon the availability of abiotic resources, environmental conditions, and other factors. For example, a pond possesses different sets of flora and fauna as compared to the river ecosystems. This diversity has developed over millions of years of evolution and is of great value that must be kept intact. Now, we should know what and why this biodiversity is important. Increase ecosystem productivity. Each species in an ecosystem has a specific niche or role to play. Support a larger number of plant species and therefore a greater variety of crops. It protects freshwater resources, promote soils formation and protection, provide for nutrient storage and recycling, aid in breaking down pollutants, contribute to climate stability, speed recovery from natural disasters, provide more food resources, provide more medicinal resources and pharmaceutical drugs, offer environments for recreation and tourism. Biodiversity also has the following importance. Biodiversity plays a fundamental role in maintaining the balance of the Earth's ecosystems and provides numerous benefits to humanity. These benefits can be broadly categorized into ecosystem services, economic benefits, and cultural and social values. So the first importance of ecosystem services is biodiversity underpins a wide range of ecosystem services that are crucial for human survival and well-being. These services are often divided into four categories: Provisioning services. These include the production of resources such as food, water, timber, fiber, and medicinal plants. Biodiversity ensures a sustainable supply of these resources. Second is regulating services. Biodiversity helps regulate essential ecological processes and life subsystems, including climate regulation, disease control, water purification, and pollination of crops. Third is supporting services. These are the foundational processes that maintain other ecosystem services such as nutrient cycling, soil formation, and primary production. Fourth is cultural services. Biodiversity contributes to cultural, spiritual, recreational, and aesthetic values. Natural landscapes and wildlife are integral to many cultures and traditions around the world. Next is economic benefits. Biodiversity is a cornerstone of many economic activities. Agriculture, forestry, fisheries, and tourism heavily depend on biodiversity. Genetic resources from plants, animals, and microorganisms are vital for developing new crops, medicines, and industrial products. Biodiversity also contributes to job creation and economic stability in many communities. Cultural and social values. Biodiversity has intrinsic value and is essential to the cultural heritage of many societies. It influences cultural practices, traditional knowledge, and social systems. Many communities around the world have a deep connection to their natural environment, which shapes their identity and way of life. Now let's discuss about the threats to biodiversity. Despite its immense value, biodiversity is facing unprecedented threats primarily due to human activities. The major threats include habitat destruction, climate change, pollution, overexploitation, and the introduction of invasive species. First is habitat destruction. The conversion of natural habitats into agricultural land, urban areas, and infrastructure development is the leading cause of biodiversity loss. Deforestation, wetland drainage, and coral reef destruction have severely impacted countless species and ecosystems. Climate change. Global warming and associated climate changes are altering habitats and affecting species distributions, breeding cycles, and food availability. Many species unable to adapt quickly enough to these changes, leading to population declines and extinctions. Pollution. Chemical pollutants, plastic waste, and other contaminants have detrimental effects on biodiversity. Water, soil, and air pollution can cause direct harm to species and disrupt ecosystem processes. Overexploitation. Unsustainable hunting, fishing, and harvesting of wildlife and plants have led to the depletion of many species. Overfishing, for instance, has severely impacted marine biodiversity and the health of ocean ecosystems. Invasive species. The introduction of non-native species can disrupt local ecosystems by preying on native species, competing for resources, or introducing diseases. Invasive species are a major driver of biodiversity loss in many regions. Now let's discuss about the various conservation efforts to maintain the biodiversity. To address the decline in biodiversity, various conservation strategies are being implemented at local, national, and global levels. These strategies include protected areas, habitat restoration, sustainable resource management, legal frameworks, and community-based conservation. Now we will see what exactly mean by protected areas. Establishing protected areas such as national parks, wildlife reserves, and marine sanctuaries is a key strategy for conserving biodiversity. These areas provide safe habitats for species and help maintain ecological processes. However, effective management and enforcement are crucial for their success. Now we'll discuss what do you mean by habitat restoration and how we can restore the habitat. Restoring degraded habitats can help recover biodiversity and ecosystem functions. restoration efforts include reforestation, wetland rehabilitation, and coral reef restoration. These projects often involve the reintroduction of native species and the removal of invasive species. Now third is sustainable resource management, means how you can sustain the resources which are available with proper management. Implementing sustainable practices in agriculture, forestry, fisheries and other industries can reduce the negative impacts on biodiversity. This includes promoting organic farming, sustainable logging and responsible fishing practices. Fourth way or the strategy to maintain the biodiversity is legal frameworks. National and international laws and agreements play a very vital role in biodiversity conservation. The Convention on Biological Diversity, that is called CBD, the Endangered Species Act, that is called ESA, and various regional agreements provide legal protection for species and habitats and promote conservation efforts. It is very important to protect the habitats and to have a better conservation efforts and the strategies to sustain these habitats. Now let's discuss the fifth strategy for maintaining the biodiversity is community-based conservation. Engaging local communities in conservation activities is essential for success. Community-based conservation programs recognize the role of indigenous and local knowledge in managing biodiversity. These programs often involve participatory approaches and benefit sharing mechanisms. So it is very important to invite the communities to maintain the biodiversity. The next is the role of science and technology. Advances in science and technology are enhancing our ability to understand, monitor and conserve biodiversity. Techniques such as remote sensing, geographic information systems GIS and environmental DNA, that is called eDNA, are revolutionizing biodiversity research and management. Let's discuss and see what exactly mean by remote sensing and how it works. Satellite imagery and GIS technology allow scientists to monitor changes in land use, habitat fragmentation and ecosystem health on a large scale. These tools provide valuable data for conservation planning and decision making. Second is environmental DNA. eDNA techniques involve analyzing genetic material obtained from environmental samples, example water and soil, to detect the presence of species. This non-invasive method is particularly useful for monitoring elusive or endangered species and assessing biodiversity in various habitats. Third is citizen science. Engaging the public in biodiversity monitoring and conservation activities through citizen science programs can significantly enhance data collection and raise awareness. Smartphone apps and online platforms enable people to contribute to biodiversity research by recording sightings and observations. Now we'll see the overall conclusion of biodiversity and how we have to maintain these and what is the major importance of biodiversity. Biodiversity is a vital component of life on Earth, essential for ecosystem health, human well-being and the sustainability of our planet. Despite its immense value, biodiversity is under severe threat from human activities. Conservation efforts at all levels are crucial to halt and reverse the loss of biodiversity. Protected areas, habitat restoration, sustainable resource management, legal frameworks and community-based conservation are key strategies in this endeavor. Advances in science and technology provide powerful tools to enhance our understanding and conservation of biodiversity. By recognizing the importance of biodiversity and taking collective action, we can ensure a thriving and resilient natural world for future generations. So the learning outcomes of the content of biodiversity, first is understand the concept of biodiversity and the second is to learn about the units of biodiversity. We have discussed about the biodiversity, in that short for biological diversity refers to the variety and variability of life on earth. We have also discussed there are three levels of biodiversity. First is genetic diversity, second is species diversity, and third is ecosystem diversity. In genetic diversity, we discussed that genes are the basic units of hereditary information transmitted from one generation to other. In the second levels of biodiversity, we discussed that is species diversity. This is the variability found within the population of a species, and the richness of species in an ecosystem is called species diversity. Then we discussed the third level of biodiversity. It was ecosystem diversity. An ecosystem develops its own characteristics, community of living organisms depending upon the availability of abiotic resources, environmental conditions, and other factors. Then we moved on to the importance of biodiversity. In the importance, we had discussed that how it helps to support a larger number of plant species and therefore a greater variety of crops. It also helps to protect freshwater resources. It also promotes soil formations and protection. It also provides for nutrient storage and recycling. It also provides aid in breaking down pollutants. It also contributes to the climate stability. It also helps to speed recovery from natural disasters. It also provides more food resources. It also provides more medicinal resources and pharmaceutical drugs. It also offers environments for recreation and tourism. Apart from that, there are so many other importance of biodiversity. Like biodiversity plays a fundamental role in maintaining the balance of the Earth's ecosystems and provides numerous benefits to humanity. These benefits can be broadly categorized into various services like ecosystem services, economic benefits, and cultural social values. Now we'll see in one line what do we mean by ecosystem services. Biodiversity underpins a wide range of ecosystem services that are crucial for human survival and well-being. It also helps to provide various services also like economic benefits. Biodiversity is a cornerstone of many economic activities. It also provides cultural and social values. There are some threats to biodiversity also. Despite its immense value, biodiversity is facing unprecedented threats primarily due to human activities. The major threats include habitat destruction, climate change, pollution, overexploitation, and the introduction of invasive species. There are some conservation efforts also for biodiversity. To address the decline in biodiversity, various conservation strategies are being implemented at local, national, and global levels. These strategies include protected areas, habitat restoration, sustainable resource management, legal frameworks, and community-based conservations. There is also one of the major importance of science and technology towards biodiversity. Advances in science and technology are enhancing our ability to understand, monitor, and conserve biodiversity. The techniques such as remote sensing geographic information system, that is called GIS, and environmental DNA, that is called eDNA, are revolutionizing biodiversity research and management. It has various advanced level of technology: remote sensing and GIS, environmental DNA, eDNA, citizen science. So this was all about the learning outcomes of biodiversity we have discussed. Now let's have a small conclusion of biodiversity. Biodiversity is a vital component of life on Earth, essential for ecosystem health, human well-being, and the sustainability of our planet. Despite its immense value, biodiversity is under severe threat from human activities. By recognizing the importance of biodiversity and taking collective action, we can ensure a thriving and resilient natural world for future generations. Thank you.